but some of you, haven't. So now Brian gets to pick on the newer person. And so it's always nice when you're not the new kid in the class anymore. Someone else moves in from out of town, and now he's it or she's it.
We got a new foreigner.
Yeah, right. And we do have two opening passages here on the introduction. So what I'd like to do is have Noah, if you would read Ephesians 6, 10 through 18 for us, and then Andrew, if you wouldn't mind grabbing Romans 12, or 13, 12, and 15 for us. We'll look at Ephesians first. And sometimes we talk about memorizing. I think Phil mentioned this. Was it Wednesday? I think a Wednesday ago or whatever. That things are getting rough and they're going to get rougher, and we may not be able to assemble like we can. So, what would you take to prison with you? How much scripture would you know? How much scripture would you remember? Sometimes if you don't remember word for word, you can at least remember how to find things like Ephesians 6. Ephesians 6, right off the bat, the armor of God. Okay, Romans 8, the whole chapter is about spiritual life and death and sin and flesh, and of course Romans 8:28, about all things work together. So you can lock in at least on an area or what the gist of it is. Okay, if I say
1 Corinthians 13.
For instance, 1 Corinthians 13, or Hebrews, 11. Okay, so you'll be able to remember. The faith. Okay, so that's one way to do it. I do have a 5-part lesson on understanding the Bible, and the 5th one I believe is on memorization and the different ways you can memorize. So I don't know if I brought that years ago. It was still on the Mac. It was on the Mac. It was an old series on the Mac. So maybe we'll do that some one of these times. But Andrew, would you please read, or Noah, Ephesians 6 for us?
Finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might. Put on the whole armor of God, that you may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in the high places. Wherefore take unto you the whole armor of God, that ye may be able to withstand the evil day, and having done all to stand. Stand therefore, having your loins girded about with truth, and having on the breastplate of righteousness, and your feet shod on with the preparation of the gospel of peace. Above all, taking the shield of faith, wherewith ye shall be able to quench all the fiery darts of the wicked, and take the helmet of salvation, and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God, praying always with prayer and supplication in the Spirit, and watching thereunto with all perseverance and supplication for all saints.
All right, a lot in there, isn't there? So over the course of the next few weeks, we're going to be looking at each piece of armor, beginning with the belt of truth today. But Sister Leah, how about grab the first part? We'll give Tony the second part of our introduction. So why don't you grab the first part down to where the last words would be Satan's temptations, and then Tony, you can take it from there.
Did you want to read Romans 13?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I'm sorry. Romans 13, 12 and 13.
Okay. The night is far spent, the day is at hand. Therefore let us cast off the works of darkness, and let us put on the armor of light. Let us walk properly as in the day, not in revelry and drunkenness, not in lewdness and lust, not in strife and envy.
Okay, he calls it the armor of light. Okay. What are you looking at?
Huh?
Oh, that was it, right?
Well, there was one more verse.
Okay, good.
It says, but put on the Lord Jesus Christ, and make no provision for the flesh to fulfill its lusts.
Right. So put on the armor of light, put on the Lord Jesus Christ. So he talks about personal deportment, personal behavior there. So, okay, so it's mentioned by Paul to the church at Rome and also to the church at Ephesus. All right, so go ahead.
Put on the whole armor of God,
As a defense against Satan's ruthless attacks, God has put together a specially designed suit of spiritual armor. Ephesians and Romans. The elect are supposed to wear this special armor to be protected from sin's influences. It will be this very armor worn by the elect that will keep them from falling and being deceived during the deceptive reign of the final Antichrist in Matthew 24:24.
I want to stop it. I want you to think about what was just said there. The elect are not going to be deceived. But it will be crucial going into that pressure zone where the Antichrist is doing this thing and there's a lot of, pressure and maybe the temptation to succumb. What will be the deciding factor? The elect or those that aren't the elect? How they go into the situation, whether they're prepared or not. Okay? So this is how we prepare. Okay? It's not something you throw on at the last minute. Okay? It's something we have to be accustomed to wear. It has to have a special fit. It has to fit. Okay? And so we have to be comfortable in it, having worn it all along. And so read that sentence again, would you please?
It will be this very armor worn by the elect that will keep them from falling and being deceived during the deceptive reign of the final Antichrist.
Okay.
In not allowing ourselves to be deceived, we accomplished what the Apostle Paul admonishes God's people to do. Brethren, give diligence to make your calling and election sure, for if you do these things, you shall never fall.
Notice, if you do these things, you shall never fall. We're not guaranteed not falling. That's not a guarantee, right? I mean, we have to, as they say, put some skin in the game. You know what I'm saying? We have to put our life in there. We have to invest into this thing. It's not just, we can't be passive. We can't be passive. We've got to be, in fact, we've got to be aggressive. We've got to lean into this. Lean into it. Okay? All the wind and the resistance coming at us, we've got to lean into it. All right?
During Paul's day, a soldier who went out to fight the enemy first put on a protective suit of armor. Such a suit of armor was very important to the soldier of that time. Paul used the idea of a soldier and his armor, applying it in a spiritual sense. He noted to the Ephesians, brethren, that God has provided his soldiers with spiritual armor to protect them in battle while fighting our spiritual enemies, which happen to be our own sinful flesh, the world's unholy influences, and Satan's temptations.
Mm-hmm. All right, so there's a lot to fight against. Brother Brian mentioned witnessing. He begins at home. I mean, you're witnessing and you're like at home, okay? So our defenses begin at home, don't they? Here's your first defenses, right in here and right in here, okay? And then there's the external things that come at us. But we've got to be armed in the right way. Is that my phone? I think it sounds like my ringer. Did anyone else hear that?
No.
Okay.
I can hear
No, I hear things. Let's see. I would blame it on, a new phone, but I didn't really get the other phone down either.
That's okay, you're not alone, Pastor.
Okay, thank you. Trying to find recents, and I can't even find that now.
What type of phone is it?
It's Android.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Usually you just go into where you're, at least on my phone, you just go into where the telephone's at and it'll say recent or whatever.
Noah has it right.
I can't find those words.
Up at the very,
It's usually.
Oh, here it is, here we go. Okay, contact recents. Yep, recents. So I called out, the arrow, it goes up, so I called out.
Right.
So that wasn't your calling.
it should have showed a picture of the telephone if
Yeah,
you missed it.
and you have the
Yeah.
number.
Yeah.
The only thing I heard was a tin of something rattling behind.
Oh, okay,
Oh, that might have been it.
all right. I'm
Could have
hearing
been my
things.
neck when I was moving.
Mine is more crunch.
Yeah.
All right, so, yeah, and it begins at home. We always say take care of home plate. Then you worry about the other bases, guard home plate at all costs. And so our own sinful flesh, the world's unholy influences, and Satan's temptations. And of course, yesterday, in my words to the audience there in the wedding, I was speaking, to the young people, to everybody, but to the young people, because there's so much. We thought we had it bad in the '60s, like I mentioned yesterday, free love and all of this, and it was bad because the home was breaking down right before our eyes. Right? Society was just crumbling as far as the holiness and the family structure of the '50s. They were just so rebellious, and it's like they just were throwing off all restraints and all shackles, right? I mean, you saw this, we saw this. We lived through this. And thankfully, we didn't crumble through it. But the reason I focused on the young people is because it's that and more. Because the whole world, with the connections now that we have, it's not just the United States and our society. We've connected to the whole world, and so they watch us. And we go crazy, they begin to go crazy. Or they go crazy, we follow suit. So there's no place to run. There's no safe haven anymore. A society that's still wholesome and right. Where are you going to go? Well, we're going to go to Pennsylvania and hang out with the Amish. You can't even do that. They got a show on the Amish. The Amish aren't what we thought they were. So there is nowhere to go. But there should be one place to go, and that's right here. A New Testament church. That ought to be our safe haven. Okay? But here again, it may be or it may not be depending on who. Back to home plate. Back to us. Okay? And so it's so much is riding on our own, contribution to this, the collective here. It's scary, but it started out that way. 11 disciples, all had the accountability to stay with Jesus. One didn't. Okay, so they replaced him. Okay, but so we see that early on. So unholy influences, and then of course Satan's hammering his temptations too. So all right, Sister Tanya, take that next. Take the rest of it.
Prayer is the armored soldier's line of communication with headquarters. There are 6 pieces of armor, but notice that prayer is the 7th item listed, making the soldier's protection perfect or complete. The command to put on the armor of God precedes the command to be praying always, which tells us the prayer will not be as effective without wearing God's protective armor.
Let's stop right there. Did you catch that? So we're told to put on the armor, okay, and then go back to verse 18 here in Ephesians. So he tells us in verse 11, put on the whole armor of God, okay? And while you're putting it on, just praying in the Holy Ghost. So you're putting on the armor while praying. And so there's your final piece, okay? Prayer. There's your connection to headquarters, okay? So you could be a soldier out there with, armed to the teeth on all the latest gadgets, the infrared, scopes and all that, But if you've lost connection with headquarters, you can't order in an airstrike. You got the enemy all around you. You in trouble, right, Philip?
Sure.
Day in trouble. Okay. So headquarters. There's where the prayer comes in, and that's really the right thing. So it's not just us, wearing this armor. It's us connecting to God, plugging in with God as your 7th and final piece to complete everything, the whole picture. Okay. All right.
Wearing God's protective armor becomes crucial to the overall maturity of prayer life, so that a disciple who covers himself with a special protection is able to pray in the Spirit. Thus, through the power of the Spirit-filled prayer and consistent Christian service in harmony with the Scriptures, the Lord's people have all the necessary tools with which to develop their character and not merely reputation. What is the difference? Reputation is the outer person we project to please people, whereas character is the inner person we perfect to please God. So let us now examine each piece of armor that God's soldiers are to wear while praying always.
While praying always. Okay. All right. So Paul starts out with the belt of truth, but I wanna call your attention to verse, here in Ephesians. I wanna call your attention to, 11 and 12. Are we seeing this today or not? This is amazing. Asher, would you like to read verse 11 and 12 for us?
Yeah.
Oh, in Ephesians 6, it's not on our paper.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
and, well, he's getting that ready, in particular, verse 12, okay, but I wanted to read, verse 11 too, so that you could please the thought, but, we're seeing verse 12 just jump off the page, to us. I think, this election, and not just the election, but things leading up to the election, the way our society has just gone crazy, we're seeing verse 12, I think especially ringing true.
In chapter 4?
Chapter 6,
Chapter 6.
yeah, verse 11 and 12, chapter 6.
Put on the whole armor of God, that you may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. For we do not wrestle against the flesh and blood, but against the principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this age, against spiritual hosts of wickedness in all the heavenly places.
All right. We're seeing authorities above us, in high places. I know he's talking about heaven, and primarily he's talking about, demons, and he's talking about, Satan and all of that. But who do you think's controlling this stuff? Who do you think's behind this stuff? Who's pushing it and driving these people to be so utterly wicked? And if you want to get a sense of just how this thing doesn't just run, deep, it runs wide. The corruption is wide, and it's deep. It's from the Oval Office down. And there's a proverb that says something to the effect, I'm going to paraphrase. Basically, it says if the leader is, if a leader is a liar or something to that effect, then his servants are all crooked too. In other words, if he's not forthright, then the people he places underneath him as his cabinet, they're going to be crooks too. Well, it's true. He's not going to hire a bunch of, circle himself with a bunch of honest, righteous people if he's not. He's going to, match like for like here. So he can manipulate, and you can go tell him to go do this, and go lie over here, and go cheat over here, and go, bump somebody up. Oh, sorry. Anyway.
Is it, try 29:12.
Proverbs 29:12? Okay. What was the key word you looked up?
King and wicked.
King and wicked, okay. Let's see if that's the one I was thinking of.
Yeah, I'll put it.
Yeah, that's it. If a ruler hearkens to lies, all of his servants are wicked. So, I mean, he sets the bar. He sets the bar. And so what we're seeing here is, yes, this is talking about in spirit, upper places, the heavenlies, because even as we speak right now, and Brother Ben, you know this, I know you know this, there's spiritual warfare invisible to our eyes. You see, we're in this plane of life. And those who have died are in another plane of life. They're conscious. They are very conscious, right? They just don't know what's happening up here anymore, right? Solomon, Ecclesiastes, they don't know what's going on under the sun anymore. Okay, then there's another plane of life, okay, in the upper heavens. There's battles taking place. There's wars. There's conflict. And we see this brought out in Revelation chapter 12. Where the two hosts of angels are going to collide in a war just over our heads. Okay? Well, that type of battlement and conflict is always going on. We read about it in the Old Testament, where Gabriel was late showing up to meet Daniel. He said, I've been here sooner, but I got caught up in this battle. You know what I'm saying? Right? And so someone tried to interfere with him reaching Daniel. Okay, so, this is going on all around us. We don't see it, but we're feeling it through the people we, that are in our office, So, so I like this verse. It's meaning more to me now. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood. Well, he's talking about spiritual. Okay, in other words, he's saying our battle isn't necessarily physical warfare. Okay? We're not commanded to take up arms per se and go fight some country. It says, but our main conflict is against principalities, okay, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. How does the New King James read? Is it a lot different?
No,
Pretty much the same? Okay.
For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against the powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this age, against spiritual hosts of wickedness in the heavenly places.
All right. So that's the influences that we're facing, okay, and that's why the armor. That's why the armor. Okay? God has given us, He's provided for us this armor, already knowing that these spiritual forces would be against us.
Now think about in battle, one of the most in war, one of the most important things you can have is intelligence on your enemy.
Yes.
And I think that's why they send reconnaissance planes and they take pictures and
Uh-huh.
they want to know battle formations, they want to know troop deployments, they want to know that
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
They want to know how much, what to prepare for and
Uh-huh.
when they might be coming and all that.
Uh-huh.
And that's what Paul's doing here. That's what I see,
Yeah.
is that he's saying, here's your enemy.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the Roman down the street
Uh-huh.
with the sword,
Uh-huh.
or the Jewish person who's gonna come in and thinks they're doing God a service, and they're gonna drag you. That's not really the enemy.
Right.
There's a force behind everything,
Uh-huh.
and they're influencing these men and women
Mhm.
to do the things that they do.
Yeah.
And so I think just by knowing our enemy, it helps us with the battle. And I'm thinking about, putting it on, that song says, put each piece on with prayer. And I think, well, how else can we possibly put on spiritual armor if it's not through prayer?
Yeah.
You're not gonna put this on physically.
Right.
You're gonna have to put these things on in prayer. And I like to, I don't do it, all the time, but when I do pray specifically, for the armor, I think and I know you're gonna get to it, I'm sure, but there's more to it than just belt of truth.
Uh-huh.
If the belt is what holds it up,
Yeah.
and you have the breastplate of righteousness, it protects your heart, your
Yeah.
emotions,
Yeah.
and your mind, that knowing that you're delivered,
Yeah.
your helmet of salvation, and
Yeah.
so forth and so on.
Yeah.
So I think that there's a reason, that we're told that we have to put it on in prayer.
Yeah.
It's just a spiritual thing.
Yeah. It's like for like. If our enemies are of a spiritual nature, then the weaponry has to be of a spiritual nature. In other words, it has to fight on the same plane, right? Okay, Asher. Okay, Daddy has two big swords, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So let's say he lets you take one of those swords. He's not going to. Okay, so don't get your hopes up. But let's just say he lets you take one of his swords, okay? And he says, okay, now Asher, and the sword's about as big as you are. But anyways, Asher, okay, go fight that demonic spirit. And you're slashing and hacking in the living room there, and lamps are flying, and you're poking holes and stuff, and next thing you know, Jaden goes down, But you haven't touched anything spiritual, because it's a different plane. You've got a physical, material sword in your hand, trying to whack at a demon. It doesn't work. Okay? So you have to fight spiritual with spiritual. That's why there's spiritual armor, okay? No.
To go along with what you were saying earlier, something that a lot of people tend to forget is that you need to be practiced in wearing armor.
Mhm.
You need to not only just put it on and, it'll protect you to a certain extent, but you need to know how to use it so that it's effective.
Yes.
So that the way that you move, things that you do,
Uh-huh.
I think they protect you almost as much as the armor does when you're wearing that armor.
Uh-huh.
Because every armor, of course, has its weak spots
Yeah.
if you show them.
Mhm.
And so, you know, and it's the same thing with
Yeah.
the sort of, the word,
Yeah.
is that we need to know how to use it. We need
Yeah.
to be well versed in
Yeah.
how it feels, how it works, so that we can use it to the best effect.
Yeah, it has to be battle tested.
Yeah, it has to
And
be
every
battle-
piece is defensive except one.
Except
pieces,
one.
except
Yeah,
one, yeah.
yeah. You know, the suit that I rented, it was, what do you call it, you know, custom fit, right? They took the measurements, okay, you know, all this, and then they took it in and, you know, mostly let it out, but anyway, to custom fit, okay? So, that was fit for me. And so we all wear a suit of armor, but it's custom fit for you. The pieces are the same, but Noah, if I hear what you're saying is, now it's gotta be battle tested. So your shield of faith may not be as battle tested or as worn, or it's got nicks and dents from the fiery arc as maybe someone else's who's been brought through other things. So it's gonna be kinda custom to you, it'll fit you. And how often you use the shield of faith, or how often you are, much you are aware of the helmet, that depends on your battle, you know, with the devil, okay? So he's actually, you know, getting us into shape, he doesn't realize this. He's actually getting us into shape by coming at us, because then we're forced to use it.
We need to practice with it. too,
Practice with it,
So that we know how to use it to
Yeah.
the best effect.
Yeah, yeah, there you go. Okay, so, on this, the belt of truth then, Brother Ben, would you, like to read the introduction for us on the second page?
As a defense against Satan's ruthless attacks, let us put together a specialty designed suit of spiritual armor. Ephesians 6:10 to 18, Romans 4:3.
Oh, this is a repeat.
The elect are supposed to wear this special armor to be protected from sin's influence. It will be this very armor worn by the elect that will keep them from falling and being deceived during this deception reign of the final Antichrist.
Okay. And that's what Noah's saying is, you know, we've gotta be ready, you know, it's kind of off to the side. You know, we have to be comfortable with, you know, each piece and kind of prepare ourselves for this. So that was that introduction. I'll probably have an introduction to head up each outline here, so. All right, Sister Julie, how about take us on into the belt of truth?
Just as a Roman soldier protected himself with a leather apron skirted around his loins and thighs, so the Christian soldier should surround himself with God's truth as he goes out to do battle with the devil. Most certainly, the battle in which God's people are engaged in is the fight for truth. In becoming wrapped in truth, our prayers will be in better harmony with scriptures and therefore more effective. As we continue to grow in the Word, our prayer life will likewise begin to mature.
Now, this isn't to say that, you know, our friends out here, our saved friends, you know, community of saved people, you know, they're battling this as well, right? I mean, they read these scriptures, and they're all about fighting the devil, you know, and overcoming themselves. All we're saying is that the more truth you understand, and it's really two areas of preparation, as I was saying at the table yesterday, okay? At large, saved people are preparing people, whether they realize it or not, are preparing people for the population of the nations, okay? Which God needs, by the way, right? If in his mind he's got a group of leaders, then in his mind he must have a group of subjects. It goes hand in hand. So who's preparing the subjects? If the scriptural New Testament churches are tasked to prepare the leaders, the rulers, then others must be busy about preparing the subjects. Okay? Both are needed. Can you imagine arriving in the kingdom and you're in the city and you know, you're given the crowns and all this, and Jesus sends you out to go rule those nations, you know, doors are opened up, you go out there and there's nobody there. What are you going to do? So that's what they're doing. And so we don't blow out their light. We don't stomp on them. We say, praise the Lord, get as many as you can. Right? Because keep in mind too, that in the kingdom, right now, Jesus says, unto him be glory, be honor and praise, glory, in the church. That's the place that is now reserved to bring him full honor and glory. Okay? But in the kingdom, all will be given him honor and glory. You realize that? It'll be a whole upgraded, living environment. And so, but for right now, our job is to stick as close to the whole truth as possible, so that our armor matches what we understand. And the belt of truth is very, very important. So we want to understand the whole picture and not just pieces of it, not just chunks of it, but to get the whole flow of it, okay? Because that's what's going to get us into the city. Having just portions of it, missing big chunks of it, then how are we going to get into the city if we don't understand this, right? So, okay, any thoughts on that? Yes, Randy?
I'm sure you probably touch on it at some point, but the belt is what holds up everything,
Yeah,
you know, and
Yeah.
we in our lives, if we don't have truth to combat the deception that you're talking about
right,
here,
right.
and there's a deception every day.
Oh,
I mean, let's face it, if we choose not to put on the armor, and I'm not talking about, we have to specifically pray verbatim,
Mm.
all the armor, I'm not talking about that.
Mm.
But if we don't prepare ourselves every day, those darts still come.
Oh, yeah,
The darts still come,
Oh, yeah.
the attacks still come, the
Yeah.
deception wave still comes.
yeah,
It's just that we're not prepared for it.
right.
And now we're taken off the battlefield, as it were,
Uh-huh.
as a wounded soldier.
Yeah.
And now we have to go recuperate.
Yeah.
And so, it's not like the devil takes a day off. He doesn't take a day off. And the people that we work with and, they don't take a day
No,
off.
no.
This battle still goes on, so
Yeah.
we have to be prepared.
Mhm.
So I think the belt of truth is something that is set in its place as it holds up everything.
Yeah,
If you don't have a belt,
Yeah.
everything's loose and everything.
yeah.
You have to have that belt to tie everything together.
Everything good. Yeah, and it's in the center, isn't it? So you got the helmet, and the breastplate, and then you got the shoes and all that. But you got the belt, and the sword kind of to center everything, right? Right in your waist, at your waist, okay? So, right. There's our center. So, the devil would like nothing more than for us to be ignorant of truth. When we, like Brian's talking about witnessing, there's different ways of witnessing, and you are witnessing. Sometimes we don't realize it, but really we are witnessing. Andrew likes to call it a silent witness. It is a witness. It's what you project silently. You haven't said one word as far as the church or scriptures or anything. They're just watching you. You fit into the group because, see, you're watching them, and you're observing their lives. You're listening to their words and their conversation. Well, we all do that to each other. They're doing that to you. Okay. So when they notice, it's noticeable that you're not quite like them. You're kind of kind of an odd duck as far as the crew goes. Okay.
No doubt.
Philip would say, well, just from Michigan, there's the odd duck part right there. Anyway.
Not all like we act up to be.
So there is a witness, right? There is a witness, okay? Positive or negative, there is a witness, okay? But there's ways that we can, open up the conversation, like you said, in what you said, it wasn't even you opening it up, it was them asking you, hey, what are you doing this weekend? Okay? And so, out of curiosity, because they see you a little bit different, and you're forming, friendships with these people, right? Or at least acquaintances. Say, hey, what are you doing this weekend? And say, oh, well, I'm going, the usual, going to church. What are you doing? Oh, I'm doing whatever. Oh, okay. You're going to church? Yeah. So you never know. It just might open up something. I mean, so, has he beat them over the head with the Bible or Scripture? No, not at all. And I've said this a million times. Your first witness, your first connection with them, is your work. Number one. Okay. If you're a lousy worker, I'm talking about from employee to employee. If they see you as shirking your responsibility, you're just not a very good worker. They're always having to jump in and bail you out or help you because you can't swing a hammer. You know what I'm saying? Why was this guy even hired? Okay. you're all sitting down eating sandwiches at lunch. He says, "Hey guys, wanna come to church with me?" Oh boy, probably not.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So your first witness is the quality of you as a worker, as an employee, okay? Because that's what they're looking at, man to man. Okay? And so, let's see, Tamara, nodding your head, yeah. I was talking to your boss yesterday.
Well, she's fired.
You
And
can't
he
be
was-
your father-in-law, right?
He couldn't say enough. He was just saying how blessed he was to have her. So she's already opened the doors for opportunities right there, just when your boss says that about you, right? There's your first one. Okay. I thought I saw Ben had a hand up, or somebody had a hand up.
Well, you're talking about witnessing, you know, and stuff that, sometimes our lives and the way we live and the way we act is a bigger witness than any words we can say.
Yeah.
Many times we've been places where, I see you bowing your head in prayer before and thanking God for your
Yeah.
meal.
Yeah.
Just, you're controlling your attitude and your tempers and walking away from something that everybody else gets mad at.
Yeah, yeah.
It shows that you have something there that God is there
Mhm.
that they don't have.
Uh-huh.
And we look down the road and we see, and they say that, they question that, is how come he can put that off? And how
Right.
come he does the things that he does?
Mhm.
And it's not because you're trying to put anybody down or be
Right.
better, but it's just your way of life.
Yeah.
And so that's why you're witnessing a lot of times when you don't even know you're witnessing.
Right, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I remember in I was in California, that the neighbor, we never thought that he thought much about it. But if we didn't go to church one morning, he was on the phone finding out if we were sick,
Oh,
because
my.
we didn't go to church.
There you
So
go.
you know
Yeah.
that you're a witness to that
Yeah,
person
yeah, yeah,
by what your lifestyle is.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, he watched the vehicle leave the house every Sunday morning, and when
And
he
we don't
didn't.
even know that we're
Yeah,
doing it.
yeah,
But if it's your lifestyle, you don't realize you're doing it.
yeah,
It's like we was talking about on the armor, that's part of the armor,
yeah.
is to live in your life
Mhm.
so that people notice it.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, and it all goes back to what Tanya read here. We're not doing this, like you said, we're not doing this to put people down. We want to bring people up and in too. But the reputation is the outer person we project to please people, okay? But character is the inner person we perfect to please God. And so whether or not we reach these people, it's all about, first of all, pleasing God first. Right? And so, but yeah, you're right, the witness we leave behind, or exude, is so crucial. We are His ambassadors.
Yeah, it's good.
We're His ambassadors, okay? As if Jesus was here in person. Oh, He's already done that. Okay? What did He do in preparing for Himself to leave? What did He do? He put His ambassadors in place to say, now you go do this. Okay? You've watched me. I trained you. Now you go do it. Well, those ambassadors then trained the next generation of ambassadors. And they trained the next, and on and on. Wednesday night, now, several centuries later, we're the ambassadors. Okay, so that's just how it is. And so we want to leave a good taste in the next generation's mouths as being ambassadors, because time is now. I believe we have a shorter window of this. I don't think there's another 1,200 years out in front of us of generations of ambassadors. I think this thing is winding down. Okay, so anyway, okay, where did we leave off? Oh, you finished that, okay, all right. How about, Sister Judy, how about the importance of truth? We're gonna look at a few scriptures here. How much time? That's wrong.
It's 11:05.
11, yeah,
No, I
5 hours.
changed it.
11:05.
So-
It's right.
Oh, so, okay, 11:05, okay, all right. Well, I'll tell you what, let's just break it off right there. And you've got these scriptures, you can go ahead and look them up if you like, just to kind of, continue on. And hopefully we'll have the PowerPoint going. But like I said, for those that want it, I'll have the printouts. Now, how many printouts should I make?
I like them all.
Okay, so Or you want it electronically? Cause I can send it to you electronically.
I'm sure I have it.
Okay, okay. All right.
I'm sure I have
Thing, is that what you're saying? The whole-
Well, each week I'll bring a printout. Do you want a physical printout or, that's what you,
Just email it to
so I'll
me,
just send it to you,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
we'll do that. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I'll make a few. All right. Let's close it. Father in heaven, we want to thank you, Lord, for this beautiful day. Thank you, Lord, for the beauty of the saints, Father, and how they've gathered themselves together for the purpose of worshiping you and uplifting your Son. Pray you continue to be with us, Lord, as we continue on in our service, our song service, and preaching of it. We ask it in Jesus' name. Amen.